Hi, I thought for the last short in the HyperJapan series, I would just do a little bit of voiceover talking about my experience there as an autistic disabled person. As you could tell from my previous shorts on it, there was lots to see in terms of fandom merch, fan art, character plushies, collectibles, stickers, figurines, ornaments. I wasn't 100% familiar with all of it, but there was definitely plenty to see that I did recognize and was very excited to see out in the wild, particularly the Remont blind boxes, because obviously as a miniature artist I was very much on the hunt for minis in particular. Especially Gachapon, which I did manage to find a decent bit of. However, I will admit I was a little bit disappointed by how heavily marked up a lot of it was. That is kind of to be expected, I guess, for a convention type event though, and I did eventually manage to find some that were priced a bit more accurately to how they would be in Japan. And besides Gachapon, there were plenty of handmade miniatures from other artists, and that was really nice to see. Predominantly miniature food items kind of turned into accessories, jewellery, hair stuff, charms, all that kind of thing. Even home decor items like these really adorable candles that I know I would never be able to get myself to light. And there was also plenty of really interesting original artworks, which I would have liked to have had a bit of a closer look at. However, this event got very busy very quickly, and as somebody that is super anxious and does not do well in crowds, that made it quite hard for me to persuade myself to approach the busier, more popular kind of stalls. A lot of the footage of me actually managing to look through the contents of the stalls is taken from very early on in the event when it was still busy but not quite as heavily packed. Although I will say some stalls, like the cosplay ones, were kind of just packed the entire time. So I was a bit sad to miss out on those, and also, weirdly enough, a lot of the Ghibli stuff. Because obviously it being very popular meant there were quite long lines to see the Ghibli stuff. And by this point, not only was the panic getting harder to control, but I was also experiencing quite a bad chronic pain flare from standing. And there wasn't really much in the way of seating, although they did have a quiet space that you could go to if you were like really overwhelmed. So I did end up using that a lot, as did a lot of other people. So I feel like they could have done with multiple quiet rooms, especially since it was a very tiny room and it only had one chair. That being said though, I was very glad to be able to go and I managed to get some cool stuff. So stay tuned for some unboxings.